more than anything right now? Could you?
Certainly. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful that for times like this that we can look to you for guidance, for comfort. We know that you have our best welfare in mind. Father, as you know, we are experiencing things we've never experienced before. But give us the wisdom to make choices in conjunction with your will as we try and solve some of the pain and suffering we're experiencing as a city, as a state, as a country, and as a world. Father, we thank you for sparing us to be able to do things that will help alleviate the suffering. Bless all of the caretakers, the first responders, the doctors, the nurses, the utility folks who do the cleaning. Father, help us to grow closer as a city, as a state, and as a nation, realizing we are at our best when we work and pull together. Father, we know we have a charge as the Odessa Development Corporation to try and make business decisions that are good for our city. We just pray that you will give us that spirit as we deliberate this afternoon to make wise decisions that will be helpful to all above. Father, we love you. We know you love us. Continue to watch over us. It's our prayer in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, on the agenda, we'll take the first item. Consider a resolution approving the fourth and payment to West Texas Food Bank based on compliance and economic development agreement. I think in our packet there it shows that Weaver has confirmed that. Is that correct, Cindy?
That is correct.
West?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
That's Robert.
All right. And if they've done that, is there any discussion before we vote on that?
This is David. I move for approval.
Got a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion passes. One thing I want to make note of, and I don't know if all the members know, we're putting that through mainly because they need the money so bad, but we need to also have a conversation with them. I think we requested back in January, February for that information and didn't get it from them, and then they come back. So we need to make sure they know next year we need that information in a timely manner so we don't have to do this again. Melanie, I think you just joined us, and sorry for the lateness. We've considered and passed the resolution on the West Texas Food Bank payment. I was just making a comment. We need to coordinate with them a little better to get that information in a timely manner so we're not asking Weaver to jump through hoops. Does anyone else have any comments on that?
Norma, if you can unmute Melanie on there.
I think Melanie's on. I don't know if
Okay, she is. Okay.
Michael, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have something to say?
Okay. Any other comments on that? We'll go to item number 2, discuss and authorize the mayor to negotiate and execute on behalf of the city of Odessa and Odessa Development Corporation an agreement to approve the use of OD funds for COVID-19 supply sourcing and manufacturing related infrastructure-based projects and to provide COVID-19 related assistance.
So if I can just, this item changed a little bit from city council. This was how it was worded at council today to authorize the mayor to negotiate and execute on behalf, but they actually decided that they could meet emergency basis as well as when we meet, they could meet within a few hours of us. So there's really no need for the mayor to be authorized to negotiate or execute. They still can do that, but they still will want ODC approval of things, which we've kind of decided we can do fairly rapidly. And then literally council could call an emergency meeting if needed, or if it was timely enough, we could wait till their next work session or regular meeting. So just so you know.
Norma, can you make sure you note that those changes have been made? We're not, so that
Yes, sir.
change that up. Okay.
So I can just go straight into these, and we can go line by line. And I suppose we needed some form of a motion and a vote for each one, but manufacturing medical equipment and supplies as it relates to COVID-19. You know, and as you heard over the last few days, we have a local manufacturer or two that wants to make these intubation boxes or chambers or protective shields. I sent everybody the information and a video related that showed those. I also got invoices for that already. So we sort of went ahead due to the emergency and the urgency of the situation. But it came in much less than what we thought it would be. But they still would like any consideration for things along these lines. So we left it sort of open there for that category. I'd like to see the thoughts of the board. These are going to go directly to the businesses that are doing this, and they're donating the time, the labor, and the assembly of the product. So, and I think it's literally job retention. I think it is manufacturing, so it fits into everything that we're able to do. Going forward, we probably won't have to have such a hurried method, and hopefully we can have a meeting as we go like this. It looks like everybody has this capability, so I just think we need to have some idea that we have things coming like this.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
As legal, you and I both asked, in fact, we voted on it to have legal give us the parameters for the use of funding, ODC funding, as it related to this pandemic. Have you talked to legal about the restrictions and the scope of our involvement financially in some of these projects?
I have not had a chance to get legal on that. No.
Legal and I have talked about it some in some fashion. This gives us a fairly broad scope. It does fit into the type A with manufacturing and job retention. As far as the that legal is on top of that and working very hard to make sure everything is going according to the guidelines and the parameters that we can do. Natasha may want to step in and.
Mr. Collins, we did. This is Natasha. I'm sorry I didn't raise my hand. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We did look into that quite extensively, and I think the way that we're doing it this time around is the way that we can do it. There was no particular law that I could find. Wesley looked, our whole staff did. There's nothing in particular that deals with the issues that we're going through right now with COVID-19, but this is a way that we can help with this pandemic.
Yeah, I will say that the governor's changing of some of the parameters on public meetings and open meetings, different things like that. That's the reason we're able to meet so quickly today. I mean, this thing is really changing, but this is directly medical manufacturing, and it is one of our primary categories for what the ODC funds are able to be used for. So even if it wasn't in an emergency, we probably could bring this forward as just a general typical project for job retention and hopefully some creation. But I think what I want to say there, and Natasha probably meant to say, is that since the last meeting and this meeting, the world just sort of changed on how we can do things, specifically on some short notice and some directly related to COVID-19 items.
Don't y'all think it would be wise to go ahead and have a resolution addressing the fact that we are entering into this area of financing, emergency financing? Don't you think we'll have our behinds covered if we did a resolution like that, Natasha, and first of all agree that we are in a period like Wesley, you have said, but just put it in a resolution and vote on that first?
What, Gene, this is David. Why couldn't we just be sure that our minutes reflect why we believe that this meets the legal requirements and why it makes sense for us to do it? If we do it in our minutes, and because we're going to approve the minutes, and obviously today we've had a lot of conversation here. If we write those minutes carefully enough, I think the minutes would probably suffice as opposed to having to do a resolution. Would that work? Would that work, Gene, for you?
Well, I'm no attorney. It sounds good to me. I think we need to show that we did make a concerted effort to do this and for what reason we were doing it. Since there are no real guidelines in the statute concerning that, because it does vary a little bit from the primary employee, that wording we are used to.
Yeah, well, I would say that I don't think it varies that far. Even maybe go to the point that it doesn't vary at all, because really, when you think about this, allowing these businesses to produce this product that's going to be used, obviously, hopefully with good results in the medical community. But allowing those folks to continue to make these allows them to retain those employees in manufacturing. So to me, it is a fit. But I think you're right. I think it would be very wise for us to make it very clear in our minutes that we believe that it matches up with our mission. Here's why we believe that, and we believe that we're going to retain, that we'll be able to retain jobs and have a positive impact with regard to the products that are manufactured.
Hey, David and Gene, both. This is Chris, and I totally agree with you both. And I think that the quickest way that we can get that done, I think, is the route that we should take. I think that either one will suffice for what we want to do, but I certainly would lean towards the quickest scenario.
Natasha has raised her hand. Natasha?
I think it's sufficient if they make the motion and the motion is worded well. We don't need a resolution for this particular type of item, and that's why we're having an emergency meeting so that we can discuss this and get it passed. And they're right; the minutes can reflect.
Okay. Well, this is David. I'm prepared to make a motion, but I want to make one comment first. I asked Wesley about how many units would be made with the funds that we're providing. The funds we're providing, and tell me if I'm wrong, Wesley, but the funds we're providing pays for the materials. The labor is going to be provided by the companies who are the manufacturers.
That's correct.
It's going to make about 375 units. That's about $130 a unit, which seems like a pretty reasonable price for what they're trying to build. So, with the specifications, the way they're doing it and everything. So I guess I would just like to make that comment. It sounds to me like it's not the money works. But I would.
I'm sorry.
Michael has his hand raised.
Who?
Michael?
No, Norma, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think that's just from earlier. I'm sorry.
So I wanted to make sure everyone understood the businesses went out there and made these orders on the hopes that ODC would support, and I gave them pretty good assurances of that. But this is not going to the money won't be going to someone we don't know or don't understand what they're doing. We're going directly to our Odessa business for this expense, and it's going directly to material costs. And you're right, David, it's about 375 of these. There are 200 by the end of this week, probably, and then there could be a transition to make some boxes for drive-through testing and different things like that too. So,
okay, and Wesley, this the gentleman we did this, Mark. We funded a project for him prior to Gene and I coming on the board. Yeah, so it's not like
a local business.
Yeah, Gene, I think of that. And then Natasha, if you think we could come up with a resolution that's a little broader going forward, because now we're addressing these on an instant. But if we get a resolution that we can consider something a little outside that deal, is that appropriate to ask for when you get a chance? Not to do it today, but get a resolution that we are going to be doing whatever we can on this COVID and other things that come up like this. Is that possible so that we can, I'm sure we're going to have a couple other things come up between, because this thing's not going away anytime soon. And we may have some, you think we need to do that?
I don't think we need to do a general motion because council wants to be involved in all of the
Okay.
items that
Okay, I
come
got
through ODC.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, council's aware of everything we're talking about today since they had a work session this morning. And just so also you know that compliance was brought into this, although not in the normal order or fashion as we typically do with projects, but they were brought along on this one as well. So they'd have the information, and going forward, we'll make sure we probably have Zoom meeting or some sort of email coordination with compliance simultaneously with y'all getting the information, so they're in the loop as well.
Okay.
Wesley,
Gene,
go ahead.
Gene, are you comfortable with us, the way we've gotten this worded, and then we'll address this later?
Well, Tim, you and I are insurance folks. You know, we like to fine print.
Well,
I don't have any problem. I think we just need to make it sure. I thought a resolution may be easier because we could refer to it, even going back to council when they are presented some other project that's worthy. I think a broader resolution would put us in the posture to handle those things a lot easier.
Okay.
Have to try to justify them each time we have one.
All right. Well,
I'll try to word my motion very carefully, but
okay, I think we're ready for your motion now, David.
One clarification. I ran the tape on this. They're looking to fund these 3 invoices only. Is that correct, Wesley?
Yes, sir. That's what I've been told.
Okay.
At this time. Yes, sir.
All right. I would make a motion that we provide a grant to pay for the 3 invoices that have been submitted to us that total up $48,811.76. That will, and those grant funds will help retain manufacturing jobs and manufacturing jobs that will cater to the medical community and certainly will, we believe, will have a positive impact on fighting this COVID-19 here on a local basis. And that motion that we will pay these invoices in arrears.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
I've got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, let's go to B, the infrastructure. Wes, you want to?
Yeah. Wi-Fi issue has been something that's been coming up quite a lot, obviously, in the recent past. But since this situation has come up and since all of our schools are closed and majority of our workforce, probably, I'm going to say majority, but a large portion of our workforce is now working from home. A lot of those folks are in West Odessa, South Odessa, even north up to outside our city limits to the north. But the Wi-Fi has become quite an issue. We've been talking about Wi-Fi for a while, and we all know that. But the school district and I, Kelly Wilkes, their IT person, as well as Renee at the chamber, and Dr. Muri, and the mayor, and Michael, we've all had a discussion on Wi-Fi and how we maybe help with some of this situation. I told the council about it this morning that you, as a board, would be looking at this situation as far as our fund balance goes and some capabilities that maybe we find a more pressing reason now to spend some of those funds for that rainy day that's now raining. That the construction of Wi-Fi towers in West and South Odessa, but all throughout Ector County, in order to serve our community for not only the educational side of this issue, but also the workforce side. Again, it's infrastructure related since it is Wi-Fi and it's a backbone kind of a system that would be installed. It's quite a lot of funds, honestly, but we've had discussions also about trying to get the PSP to step up to the plate on some of this. They wanted to do this project before. They need to be a partner and a player in this situation, but this is about a $2 to $3 million expense not all at once, not all up front. There will be some temporary units that could be placed in certain areas for hotspots until the towers could get constructed. There's a lot of oil field service companies that provided Wi-Fi to the oil field that now have nothing to do, literally. They're not, they have some slack in their schedules and some slack in their workforce availability. So I think our timing is really good in order to get something like this done if we wanted to do that. So I think this would be a very positive thing. We just need to decide with a discussion if this is where exactly we want to do this and how exactly we want to do this. I've said all along that ODC doesn't want to be the daddy at home when the Wi-Fi doesn't work. Okay, that's what we're doing. I'm not going to go out to the towers and unplug the routers and all this kind of stuff. And it's also going to be something we're going to make sure we have assurances as far as what is able to be done, what's able to be, who's able to get on it. Those kinds of things will all have to be coordinated and facilitated through school, county, city, all the entities in place in all of these areas. So it's a lot to talk about or digest on the cuff there, but I did want to get this out in front of y'all today.
So, Wes, this is Chris, and to that comment, I think one of the things that we need to think about is that whenever we come out of this, whatever this looks like, I think that the dynamics of our country, our nation, our city is going to be different. I think we're going to find that something like this is going to be more pressing, but I think a lot of people find new ways to do things. So I think this is something that we certainly need to move to one of our front burners. But at the same time, I think it's really important and imperative that we get all the right players in place. It seems like Motran had a study that they brought to us maybe a couple of months back, and they said that the actual infrastructure or the ability to do this was better than what it had been in the past, but there were still some loops or some challenges, if you will. And so I think getting all the players in place to have a serious discussion about this and how we can really do it, and not just spend money saying, hey, we have Wi-Fi, and it's not feasible to accommodate what we will eventually need.
I absolutely agree, and I would love a suggestion of maybe a subcommittee of the ODC, and I can put the other players in place, and we can have a meeting like this to get everybody involved: the mayor, city manager, and the school district, and someone from the county. I don't know who that is, and then obviously ODC. And Motran, since they've been doing some of these background studies, and maybe that's where we take this. But again, moving along the lines of knowing that this is something that possibly could be supported in a positive way from ODC.
Hey, Wesley, this is David. Would it make some sense for one of the really quick goals of this initiative be to put together a proposal to PSP for matching funds? Wouldn't that make some sense? Because trying to get them off high center, to be nimble like we're trying to be, it may be a challenge. But if we put together a proposal as fast as we can, that makes sense. I think Chris has a really good point. It's got to be something that makes sense. But if we can get that done, and then, we're doing it with the idea that we're going to go to PSP ASAP with a proposal that says, hey, we want you to match what we're putting in it.
I think that's a great idea, David. I know the school district has that particular piece working on. Gene, yes?
Can I interrupt? Yeah, I've been working on this project for maybe 4 years, even with the school district through the bond that we had several years ago. We had the Gates Foundation that was going to come in and broaden the broad bandwidth of the school district. I've been working with Motran. I've been out there several times. We were talking about vertical stock and trying to get the infrastructure done. And of course, we had the survey that we funded that Beecham reported on in our last meeting. I think it's imperative. You mentioned some of the advantages in the business world, of course, emergency response, and I think that's what Motran was looking at with the school district. Every church fellowship hall becomes a learning center if you had citywide Wi-Fi, and even in the entertainment sector of our town, a quality of life. I think I bought some reports from two cities in a previous ODC meeting, maybe a year and a half ago. One of them was Austin, and there was another city with some prices there. So I guess I'm saying I'm on board for whatever we do, however we get started. I've been working on this for several years now, and I certainly hope that pretty soon we'll have city-wide Wi-Fi. There are so many opportunities we can help our students, especially in the poor neighborhoods where it is not available to, even in downtimes like this, they could be doing homework and being mentored. It's just a very good thing. And it looks like, Wes, you're talking about vertical stock. You said infrastructure?
Sir.
Okay. Is that the main thing? I know David said we need to go ahead and put something down. Is that the main thing you want right now?
The infrastructure is the main expense on these things. There is ongoing maintenance and upkeep and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think that's our role. I think the infrastructure part of that, the fiber will be in place. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. I know the city's been working with the school on some fiber capabilities throughout the district as well to the different campuses. So I know they can piggyback on some of that fiber things, and there's some temporary things that you can do in the meantime. But I think to add to what Chris said a minute ago, that as we come out of this, the way we're doing things now completely changes the way we do things in the future. We may all be doing all our meetings like this and on a larger scale, which means Wi-Fi would become even more important to every one of us. So, but yeah, it's the backbone part of this thing. The structure is going up.
And once we get this up, then we would actually lease to Comcast and some of the other major players. Is
that part I do not have details on. I know Verizon and AT&T and all those players would be involved in all of this on some level. So I think that's where we get into the nitty gritty and the details of how it all looks, and that's what we need to do to go forward.
And one last question. Once they get involved, will revenue come back to the city based on the fact that we are owners of the infrastructure?
I think it could come back to the city. Michael or Cindy may be able to address some of those franchise fees or something along those lines, like from utility companies. Is that a structure that's in place for Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi specifically?
Well, in this case specifically, would there be a revenue stream coming back?
Well, the reality is that they're already service providers. So number one, we need to consider the impact of those service, the people who rely on that as part of their product that they sell, for example. Then the companies would, I mean, all franchise companies like utilities, like cable companies, like fiber companies, most all of those do pay a franchise fee. So I think I want to understand, would ODC be looking for not just the franchise fee that the city would get, but some sort of repayment for the investment in the infrastructure?
Well, let's don't forget that. I mean, as I think Chris started this part of the conversation, that if we don't accommodate a new way of conducting business, which I think a lot of these companies are just going to say, wait a minute, this is better than what I was doing before in this aspect of my business, then we don't have a chance to expand. We don't have a chance to attract new businesses, hold the ones we got in certain areas, certain sectors. And so we don't have a chance to grow the tax base. And that's really where I think the big dollars are regarding the city, is the fact that we grow the tax base.
Yeah, I would throw in there that I don't think there's any, I've not heard, and Gene, I know you've worked on this a long time. I appreciate your work on all of this and the background legwork that's been done on folks on this, but I don't think there was ever an intention to get any reimbursement back of cost. I think it's really what David just said, being able to say going forward, look what we're able to provide you when you get here. And yeah, we need to accommodate those current providers and those things, but I think it's a big matter of future from here. And maybe we have been kicking this around for some time, and this becomes the impetus to do things we never thought we would really be that interested in, possibly, or really had an appetite for. So I think we're still some steps away from that, but having this talk today is definitely what we need to do.
Sure would be nice if Gene would agree to be on that task force. I mean, he's already done a bunch of work on it. I mean, he'd be going into it with some knowledge.
Sure, I'd love to be on that task force.
Who else
I'm just
from-
happy that we're moving forward on it. I'm glad it's on the
else-
agenda today.
Who else from ODC on our committee, our board, wants to join Gene? Is there any other people? If there's not, I'd be glad to serve with it. And then the other two from ODC. Wes, is that what you're looking for?
Yes, sir. I don't need a quorum.
Okay. All right. If it's all right with everyone else, I think Gene and I will serve as that committee and go forward. Now, do we need to vote? Are we voting on anything today on this? Because we're not actually.
Tim, why don't you just let the minutes reflect that you appointed yourself and Gene to this task force?
Okay. Norma, you listening?
Yes, sir, I have it down.
Okay. I know, I'm depending on you now.
What do you?
If you need somebody from the city, I'll be happy to join in that group.
We do need someone from the city, so you're perfect. Probably need a legal representative too. Just saying. I don't think I'd have ever said that before, but.
Well, I'll ask Robert to join us on that if he's okay with that, or anyone else from legal that has time. I know they're pretty busy, but.
Now, Robert, I'd be glad to join the task force.
Okay.
What do we need for any action on this particular letter item, Norma or Natasha or Robert?
Not now.
Yeah,
Just that appointment.
I think the minutes will take care of it.
Hey, Wes, before you go on to the next item, Norma, would you? I think I couldn't read my writing or my. I don't have enough color in my head machine tape. That number on the item A is 48,814.76. I think I gave you 811. 48,814.76. Just make sure that the minutes reflect the right number.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, going down to that next item on the Perryman report. You want to? Have you been able to talk to anyone else to help us on the cost of that, or PB, or who the group you were talking about?
No, we've kind of thought that this just turns into an Odessa thing. I thought initially that maybe we share this with Midland and Andrews and others, but I think we need to go ahead and do this on our own and have it in our hip pocket when we go forward. If you've had a chance to look over that and read through that, it's obviously a detailed report. Dr. Perryman is the expert on some of this stuff. He's our expert, so I think he's good to be doing this. The council did hear about this today. And actually pre-authorized y'all to approve this, I guess is a good way to see that. They liked it.
Okay.
Good.
But if you go into the report, if you have it, item I actually under scope of work is really where it gets to what we want to do. And that's where they assess the current issues in Odessa and the region, such as job losses and those kinds of things. And the goal will be to identify actions. That's what we really want, our actions be the most difficult.
Any other comments from our board members?
I have one. Wesley, I think the idea of a report is great. Shouldn't this report, though, actually belong to the Odessa Chamber? And can we fund it? Can we fund it and y'all take ownership of it? In other words, amend your budget that you're getting the report.
We'd be happy to take it. I mean, that's where it's going through my department anyway, and we'll be helping with and working with Dr. Perryman to disseminate the information, which is a big part of the next section there on letter K, which they help with the dissemination of the findings and the strategies, because we just want to be able to really reinforce that we're working hard to try to find ways to alleviate and move on all this stuff. So
Let's, hey, Gene, this is David, let's think about that. I mean, would it make sense for ODC to own this report and then delegate the any responsibility associated with it and hold the chamber as our contractor responsible for the success? I mean, that makes more sense to me.
I think that's an implied statement, David. I don't mean to be going over you there, but I mean, the implication was always that I would take this, our department would take this as a part of the chamber, but your contractor, and move this forward and do with it what it needs to be done.
Well, a lot of things that need to be done with this report are out of the jurisdiction of the ODC. That's the only reason I mention it. I see a lot of potential in a report like this, but we're quite limited in what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the chamber can, take pieces of it and do whatever they want to with it, as long as they know the information. I mean, it doesn't preclude them from doing it. So I don't think it creates a situation where we start facilitating stuff that we shouldn't be facilitating.
Well,
I don't see that.
If, say, as a contractor, if you own it, you give us a charge to take it and move it, but we go forward with maybe in addition or along with your motion that any subsequent expenses, I mean, there could very well could be some expenses related to disseminating this or getting it in front of the people that need to get in front of, or holding meetings, or I don't know what all that might be involved. So I think that's a way to do that, and more than happy to do it. It's what my job is, and I like to do things like that makes a difference in Odessa.
Yep, good fit.
Hey, Wes.
David, this is Chris. Just out of curiosity, what is your opposition to doing it the way that Gene is saying? I'm just not sure I understand.
Well, I've always, I guess if I'm paying for it, I want to own it. I guess that's it. That's just kind of a basic thing to me, and I don't see. I mean, otherwise, the way that you're really talking about doing is giving a grant to your contractor to pay for this report and then utilize it. It just seems like a little bit more cumbersome way to do it.
Well, the reason I mentioned that is because of the limitations we have as a 4A. There are a lot of things I would presume will come out of this report, especially with regard to the oil industry, and it has nothing to do with job creation.
Yeah, we just won't fund that stuff. We'll fund the report, but we won't fund anything that we can't fund. It comes out of it. So I've always been, if I'm paying for it, I want to own it.
I'm fine either way. I don't have objections to either one of those. I think it's great if y'all own it and then let us run with it. And anything that comes up that's not related to economic development directly through the Type A corporation, then that won't even be brought to you. We'll find other ways to do that throughout the community, other pieces. But then if there's things that can be funded through ODC that come as a result of the study, and want to have assurances that those, I'm not limited in my ability to fulfill the directives given in the report that you bought, because we can do it, but we just don't want to, kind of things. I don't think that's going to happen. It just would be helpful if we knew the strategies that would be developed and implemented. Anything within our capabilities would be brought to you guys for support, obviously. And if there's reasons not to do something, obviously, we do that with everything. I think we're working well together, and we just need to be nimble. We should have this report, I'm told, by the end of next week, hopefully, or at least the Monday following, which is really a quick turnaround, I think. So we could have something that we're working on in 10 days or less. So I think those are great things.
Hey, Wesley, if you could clarify something for me. This report, it's looking at the Permian Basin energy sector, but in terms of the deliverables or what Ray will ultimately recommend will be specifically for Odessa, right?
That's correct. Our strategies will be for Odessa. It will relate to the entire Permian Basin, because we just can't do anything that we're not related to that in the energy industry. But as far as COVID-19 and specific oil and gas things that we're going to do, it will be Odessa strategies.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Gene, I'm going to side with David on, I'll I want to own it, because if it gets out that the chamber, we paid for the chamber to do, we paid it, but it's theirs, that might open up from other entities to come in and want us to do a project similar to that. And I think we need to be real careful about that. If and
You
the
think
only,
this is going to stop them from coming in and asking us to do a project?
no. If we do, no, they'll come in and ask. We'll say, no, we buy it, and then what I'm saying. We own it. It's ours. We paid for it, and it's ours, like David said. And then, I mean, they can come and
I'm
ask
fine
us.
with it. I thought we just need to discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was
hear
great-
you.
good
I hear you. It's
discussion.
good discussion. Now, the other thing I want is when he gets through with that report, I want to hear it from him. I haven't heard. I've already stressed with Wes that I'm not a big. I want to hear what we've got. We got the UTPB deal, and we funded it, and he never has found time to come talk to us. So.
His travel schedule has cleared up pretty much now. So he
Okay.
has a great availability. And he specifically references in this that he will be presenting this to you guys and the council for.
Okay, and
his
if you're
comments.
talking 10 days, it's probably going to be on something like this, I would assume too.
Exactly. Yeah, no doubt about it.
I make a motion that we retain Pearman Group to provide us with this report, understanding that the report would be delivered within 2 or 3 weeks, and that we'll have action items inside it that we can ultimately use to benefit our local economy.
And just to reference that the proposal does say that fee plus direct or out of pocket expenses. I don't have a clue what that could possibly be, but that needs to be in the motion. And 1/2 of the retainer requested upon initiation, which is already moving. So anyway,
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes. All right, if I can get the agenda back up on the deals, what is that all we had to discuss, I think?
I think that was all.
Yes.
Okay, is there any other business or any other comments that need to be made?
we appreciate all of y'all getting together on these, and I promise I will try to move things along rapidly, but everybody needs to be, and try to coordinate meetings like this on a very nimble and quick basis, and work with the city and the staff and the legal and everything to do things the right way. But appreciate y'all's help today.
Yeah, I think that just from my perspective, Tim, I think this is a bright spot because we are reacting and acting quickly, and hopefully this report turns around quickly and that we get some action out of it quickly. I'm real pleased with the fact that we're trying to do something, and we're trying to do it as fast as we can.
Okay. All right, if no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thanks, everybody. I know there was I hope it wasn't as a challenge for y'all as it was for me, but I'm pretty damn proud I got on this thing today. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk soon.
All right.